Chairman, for the opportunity to contribute on this matter. I think there are the practical considerations, and there is the ideology that lies behind these regulations. On the practical side, we are told that goods which are qualifying Northern Ireland goods, that's to say those which originate only within Northern Ireland, are said to have free passage to GB. Mind you, the very fact you have to consider and discuss that within what's supposed to be one single country and one single internal market is a commentary in itself. But surely the Minister would have to concede that to implement these regulations, there will have to be spot checks on the NI qualifying goods moving to GB. Because without that, there is no protection against the infringement and the breaches and the upset of the very thing meant to be protected. So I suspect, whereas it's easy to say that Northern Ireland qualifying goods will move unfettered from Northern Ireland to GB, the reality, inevitably, in time, will be very different, because spot checks will inevitably, as a protection, be carried out. And then we will have the full frontal effect of fettering trade from Northern Ireland to GB. The more fundamental point is that these regulations put the government in something of a bind. They tell us, as their predecessor did, that, oh, you cannot manage trade from GB to Northern Ireland without an international customs border partitioning the United Kingdom down the Irish Sea. And of course that comes from the fact that the protocol surrendered customs control over Northern Ireland, because under regulation EU 2017-625, Northern Ireland is deemed to be the entry point to the EU. We are deemed to be EU territory, and then all the rules applying of their customs code and of their single market apply to us. Rules, laws we don't make, laws we can't change. And the government, this and the last government, said that's the only way to manage the border, because having checks away from the border, having SPS facilities at factories, at recipient points, just wouldn't work. And yet under these regulations, that is precisely what is being proffered in terms of goods from the Republic of Ireland coming into Northern Ireland and onward they go. First of all, no checks, Mr. Wilson said, on if their destination is Northern Ireland, no checks whatever. Why? Because Northern Ireland is deemed to be EU territory in terms of customs arrangements. But then, if those goods are going onwards, they are to be subject to SPS checks. And SPS checks which can be carried out away from the border. Now, if SPS checks can be carried out away from the border in a west-east transition, how on earth can they not be carried out away from the border in the east-west transition? How on earth can they not be carried out on a north-south transition? That is the fundamental bind that the government is putting itself in. It is saying, I would say, on a basis which is unsustainable, you must have an Irish Sea border. You can't have the checks at the international border, because you can't do them by having them away from the border at the factories from which they come or the places to which they're going. But that is exactly what is on offer here for goods coming from the Republic of Ireland. They can be checked at SPS facilities away from the border. Well, if that's good enough for goods which are going from the Republic through Northern Ireland to GB, why is it not good enough for goods going from the United Kingdom through Northern Ireland to the Republic of Ireland? That's the fundamental question. If it fits for one, why does it not fit for the other? And patently it would, and it should, but only could if government recovers sovereignty over Northern Ireland by discontinuing our treatment as EU territory. Then you can have your SPS checks, not at the border if you don't want them, but at any facility, so that the goods travelling from GB to the EU through Northern Ireland are treated exactly as the goods coming from the EU through Northern Ireland to GB is concerned. And I would love the Minister to explain to us why this could not and should not be a two-way process. Because without it, what we're going to end up with is a two-way border in the Irish Sea.
Thank you very much, Mr.